everyone, it's Chinyere here. So today I'm doing another sit down video. This one is about the time that I was in foster care. So I'm making these series of videos, number one, because I really wanted to start the new year off with getting things off of my chest. And also lately, just like things have been going on with my brother, and I don't know, I kind of almost feel kind of like a little bit helpless, but I don't feel helpless just because I know that I've done everything I can do. But I know that with the things that he's going through right now and dealing with, pretty much all of it is caused by these series of events. And I'm really hoping that like you guys can see through me, and if you're dealing with the same thing or you've gone through the same stuff, that you can just know that there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. And there have been so many times where I was just like, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna do next, or is this it? Like, is this how, like, and there have also been times when I've just asked myself, like, why me? Like, and my brother too, we've just asked that, like, why us? And even to this day, I'm still wondering, like, what's the purpose? You know, because there are experiences where you're like, yeah, I really learned something from it, and then there are other experiences in your life where you're like, man, I could have honestly done without that. I mean, I could have learned the same lesson in another way, or I still would have learned the lesson without that happening to me. So I do have times where I ask that, but now I'm just kind of like, I mean, before I used to ask that, now I don't even think about these things. And also, like, for adults, watch what you say to your kids, watch how you treat your children, because literally when you grow up, you literally end up paying for it. Right now, I mean, I've paid for it, going to, you know, counseling. My brother is currently, for the last couple years, has been paying for it physically, and it's horrible. So anyway, I guess let's get started. If you're new here, hi. I do like pretty long story time. I'm a very thorough person. In the comments, there usually aren't a lot of questions about this or that, because typically I would have covered it in the video. So yeah, if you like look away for a little bit, you'll probably like miss a lot if you like stop listening. Okay, so I'll start off with like the beginning and what led up to everything, the actual incident, and then like the aftermath, and kind of like an update on, probably like an update on my life and what's gone on since then. Okay, so I told the story of my dad, and that was to give you guys a pretty good idea of things, and you know, to have a better understanding of the dynamic. So when I was this was the year, I think it was like 1998 or 1999, like for sure. I grew up in an extremely impoverished home. I don't know if I'm saying the word right, but I lived with my mom and my two brothers. One was a teenager and the other one was just a couple years older than me. That's the brother that my mom and my dad had together. So I have one brother that is fully like blood brother. So altogether there's 5 kids, and me and my other brother, like, we have the same mom and dad. Now, when I was growing up, like I said, I grew up really, really poor. I mean, it was a 4-person family at the time. And sometimes my brother, he would go and he would live with his dad, the one that was a teenager. His dad was probably the most, like, in the picture dad. My sister's father had died a long time ago, like in the 70s. And then everybody else, our dads were just kind of like, whatever. So his dad was the one that was most in the picture, so he would live on and off with my mom and him. Now, like I said, this was a 4-person family, sometimes 3, and honestly, we were probably living off of like $600, maybe up to $700 income. So we were like below the poverty rate. I think for like a 4-person family, I think maybe like $20,000 a year is the poverty line. So we were like way before that. But the way that my mom rationed things, handled everything, and the way that she cared for us, like, I had no idea that we were poor, number one. I had no idea that we were supposed to be, you know, maybe like quote unquote unhappy. But the way that my mom dealt with everything and just like treated us, like I said, I would have never known. Now my mom did have like illnesses, so everything with her wasn't like picture perfect, definitely not. But honestly, with what she had going on, she was a great mom, because I knew kids who were doing a lot better than us, and they had normal parents, and their parents were treating them like crap. And now that I'm older and seeing how a lot of kids turned out, I am very lucky to have my ill mom. You know, and even like out of all the aunts and uncles, like everybody would say things about my mom, I am so glad that she is my mom, because I look at the other aunts and uncles that I have and cousins, and I'm just like, you know, I'm not trying to look down on them, but I'm just saying that I'm lucky. Like I'm really happy to have my mom. People may look down on her, but I definitely don't. So, like I said, she did the best with what she could. At the time, we lived in a 1-bedroom. There was a bed in there, but we never went really into the bedroom. We were always in the living room. We would camp out in the living room, because my mom has like a very vivid imagination. For instance, at like 7 o'clock, all the feet had to be off the floor. We had to be either on the couch, in the bed, like wherever we were going to be for the rest of the night, unless we had to use the bathroom. You know, we couldn't leave. And as a kid, my mom made it really fun, because I literally thought that at 7 o'clock the entire world had lava or rain on the ground, and we just couldn't put our feet on the floor, you know what I mean? And we had to like ask for permission to go to the bathroom. So I thought that my mom was like this ruler who would grant permission and like there was no more lava on the floor, you know? So that's just to show you like how in this little like world we were. On top of that, my mom was doing homeschooling. Now, she was not very educated, honestly. I can say that, because my mom was a black woman growing up. She was born in the 50s, because she's in her 60s now, but they didn't integrate until she was in high school. The last year of high school is when they all integrated. So she was actually held back because of her birth date. So technically she would have never integrated or even gone to school with white kids if she hadn't have been held back that year. I think it was like 1971 or 72 or whatever. Texas, yeah, it was in Texas. And even during that time, before, she was at an all-black school, so kids were learning, they were with each other, but then when they integrated, it was a totally different thing. They had white teachers who didn't want to teach the black students. They were getting expelled or suspended for dumb things. So my mom had a really hard time learning. And when she got out of high school, she did the usual thing that a lot of African-American women were doing. They were either candy stripers, because back then, like candy cane makers, they didn't have actual machines. You had to be on the actual belt and put the candy cane stripe on there. I'm saying all of this for a reason. And then she was like a CNA. She worked during the war. And then she became a licensed hairdresser. So that's pretty much like the gist of my mom. Which is where I picked up doing hair from, which I barely ever do my own hair. And my mom is also, and she's also really good at art, like any type of art, whether it was like watercolors or just like, you know, facial features, painting. She did all kinds of things, and she ended up teaching my brother how to draw. So my mom taught me how to do hair, she taught my brother how to draw, and the other 3 kids, they all picked up things from my mom's talents. So she was really talented, and she sings really well. Now, we didn't have money, but ever so often my mom would take us out and treat us. None of the dads were stepping up and paying child support. They would lie about their income, or they were just ditching it somehow. I don't know, this was like the 90s, so I don't know how they were ditching it, but it wouldn't really fly what they're doing now. She would like gather up a little bit of money, and we would go to like Astro World somehow. We would go to like the mall, and we wouldn't be spending a lot of money, but like we would get season passes to like Astro World. It was really cheap back then, especially for kids. So we would find a way. Now on this particular day, I think my brother, the teenage one, he was either, I don't think he was at the house. I think he was with his dad at the time, and my mom decided to take us out. We rarely went out. Like I said, it was really like an occasional thing. I think she had like an extra like $30, so we would take the bus and we went down to Sharpstown Mall this day. That was like a huge adventure. There was like a Fiesta not too far away, so I remember my mom would buy me like a little stroller, and I would put all my little baby dolls in, and I wanted to take them all with me. And yeah, we made it to the mall. And one thing I have to note is that, like, even though we lived like in a very small bubble, well, this is one of probably the issues. I never got any like real interaction that much with kids. Like the neighborhood that we lived in, it was an okay neighborhood. You know, obviously she could afford the rent, especially back then it was even like less. But I never really got to interact with other kids. Now I was kind of like I was pretty much a bad kid. I would lie, I would steal, I freaking loved candy, so I would take candy from the grocery store. Like I was one of those kids, you know, just bad as hell. And my brother, he was a really good kid. Like he would never lie, he would never steal, he was very quiet, off to himself, and he would make up these games, and if I didn't win I would get mad. Like I was just a freaking brat. Plus I had my arm injury, and I wanted all of my mom's attention, like, and the doctor even said she's gonna want all your attention. So yeah, we got to the mall that day, and we were all just like hanging out, and my mom took us to Taco Bell. Taco Bell was a treat. Like I take it for granted now, like I go and I just go get it if I want it, but back then, I mean, we never went out to eat. We were literally living on rations, and I remember we would all split like a can of Coke every couple weeks. Like that's how it was. But I wasn't missing food because I didn't care for it. I was a kid. So we're eating, we're at the food court, we're like splitting a meal. And I don't remember if they came and sat next to us, or we sat next to, I think it was two ladies, and I'm not sure, I think one of the ladies had two kids. They came down and they sat next to us. Now, mind y'all, I'm one of those kids, I loved people, and I was like a social butterfly, and if I met you, I would be like, you're gonna be my friend, or can you be my friend? And they would be like, yeah, and I'd be like, okay, you know, and they would be my friend for the day. So I wasn't really interacting with a lot of kids, and I mean, in the neighborhood that we lived in, it was a lot of like older people, so my mom starts talking to the couple, and then the kids come around to our area, you know, to our side of the table, and they're like, hi, you know, they're introducing themselves, and then I'm like, hi, you know, I'm taking over the conversation, my brother's saying hi. So all of a sudden, we're all like, let's play. Now, I wanted these two kids for myself. I know it sounds stupid and crazy, but that's just how it was. And then my brother starts saying, I want to play. And I was like, no, don't play with us, y'all. Yeah. And so then the other girl is like, okay, let's play. So we start playing, and then my brother comes in because he's like, I don't care, I want to play. So he just gets in. I'm like, go away. And he's like, no. I started giving my brother these little baby hits in the shoulder. It wasn't painful. It just, I really thought I was doing something. You know how like brothers and sisters fight? That was it. But it was like one-sided because he really didn't care. Anyway, my mom comes from around the table, and she starts whooping me. And it was like some little like taps on the butt. That's how it sounded, just like that. And she did a bunch of those. And like black parents, I don't know about y'all, but like we get whipped, okay? And I only got whipped 3 times in my entire like childhood. Like I just didn't get whippings. I mean, I got the most whippings. My mom was the type of person, she would make you sit down and she would yell at you, and it was scary. So her word was like enough, but I got the most whippings out of everybody. So that was like one of the 3 whippings that I got as a kid. Anyway, as my mom is whooping me, all of a sudden we are surrounded. There is security, and I remember vividly, I feel like one of the girls got up and told security because my mom was just whooping me. And they came in and they just completely separated us. They grabbed my mom, they grabbed me and my brother, and they literally tore me away from my mom. And even though she was whooping me, I didn't want to be away from my mom with these strange men. So they take my mom away, and they're like sitting her down, they're questioning her, and then they take me and my brother into separate rooms. Like I didn't even know they had like security rooms, but you know, they're hidden everywhere. And it was right by Taco Bell. So we go back there into the rooms, and they're starting to question us. They're like, the first things I remember, they start, you know, looking me over, and I didn't know that they were trying to get her for abuse. They started saying, you know, where did you get this mark? They started questioning all my scars. Now, I was a rough kid. I would roll on the ground. I would bump into stuff. Like, I would fall. So I had lots of scars, and I had mosquito bites. I mean, it's Texas. Like, it gets humid, and there's mosquitoes everywhere. And so I was just like, he said, what's that one from? And I said, ironing lessons. He said, what about that one? I said, that got bit by a bug. And then he said, what about that one? I said, I fell. I was playing. Just like that, I had a little attitude. And he starts asking me more things. He's like, you have any other scars that we should know about? And I said, you shouldn't know about any of my scars. And so then he didn't really go too much into depth. He was like, do you want a taco? And I was like, yeah, I want a taco. Now listen, I already knew that this was a tactic, an interrogation tactic. Even as a kid, I knew he's just trying to give me tacos, but I wanted tacos, so I ate it, and I didn't tell him anything else. That was just it. I mean, you weren't going to get much out of me. I asked him, like, why is my mom crying? Because my mom was over in her seat, and she was crying, and it was just heartbreaking. Like, you know, she was just like, I want my babies. You know, give them back to me. I didn't do nothing. All I did was give him a little spanking. That was what my mom was saying. And I had seen other kids getting spanked in public places and they weren't being interrogated. So then I'm in there, I'm eating, and he says, you want another taco? And then he brought me like 3 or 4 tacos. My brother's in the other room. Like, I didn't even find out what he was saying until like a couple years ago. But I figured that they were just asking him the same things they were asking me, but they were going more in depth with my brother. Like, they were like, did she ever abuse you? Because he was older, so they knew that he would have a better understanding of what they were saying. And so my brother told them, he was like, yeah, we get whooped. You know, he was just saying other things, and I was like, oh boy, this is not going to help anything. You know, and he never got whooped, but he was just telling the truth. Like, I do get whooped and stuff, but it was like it was nothing. Like, guys, and it's so crazy because, like, my mom is not an abusive mother. There are moms out there who I've gone to school with, smoking in the house, beating their kids, like leaving them alone for hours at a time, can't even reach the counter, you know what I'm saying? And they have their children. I see people living in fucking filth, especially in the country. Like, you gotta, you know, and I watch hoarders, and these people on hoarders, like, their kid, it's like unlivable conditions, and they still have custody of their children. So I'm like, here we are, out for a day. My mom had saved up some money to take us out, and she's being interrogated like a fucking criminal for spanking me in a food court. I mean, it just sounded ridiculous. So I'm thinking, you know, I'm asking him, you know, okay, can we go back to our mom? And he says, okay, just in a little bit. Little did I know that it was going to turn into a 2-year ordeal. So they take us away. They put my mom into, I guess they arrest her, they handcuff her, they take her to jail, and they put her in a holding cell. Because I guess she has to, like, place bail. I don't want to ask my mom about it, honestly, guys, because my mom can literally, like, not make it through the story and stuff. I've already told the story earlier this morning, but I had some deleted files, so this time around it's easier for me to not get, like, super emotional when I'm telling it. You guys don't know, like, foster care is temporary placement for children. You know, when something happens with your parents, they'll put you in foster care. Adoption is different. Adoption is when you actually do the process to actually legally become somebody's parent. So foster care is temporary. Now, we get down there and we meet our social worker. I'm now learning these terms, and she starts asking us questions, and she's like, are you an orphan? How long have you, just different questions. And I couldn't tell the days. I didn't know, but I was just like, yeah, we're an orphan. My brother was like, no, we're not. And I said, yes, we are. I thought that once you don't have your parents anymore, like, you get taken away from that, you're an orphan. But he was like, no, it's when they die. So that was that. I was also a little Miss Know-It-All, guys. I'm pretty sure if I have kids, they're gonna just give me hell, because I was so bad. Anyway, after that, I think it was like that night, we got transported to the foster home. It was like immediately, because we were out in the daytime during the afternoon, and by the night we were there. So when we first get to the foster home, thank God, me and him, we had each other. There were other kids that were not so lucky, and they were by themselves, and they had a terrible family. It's not uncommon for kids to leave there being scarred for life. And when we get there, it's an old lady. It's an older black lady, much older. And, I mean, she looks like somebody that shouldn't even be taking care of kids. She can barely walk. And it's a house. It's in, like, a little older subdivision. We get in there, and she wasn't acting like super nice, but that was the nicest that she acted the entire time. She was like, hello, what's your name? And she tells my brother, you have the most gorgeous hair. You know, me and my brother, we didn't look like any of the other kids in the neighborhood. I had a little twist out. I had natural hair. I never had a perm. My brother had these big long locks. The locks stopped here, but they were so thick and luscious, you could pull one and it went all the way down to his waist. So that was him, and then that was me, and all the other kids had relaxed hair. They had these buzz cuts, and my mom was a really Afrocentric person. She was really into black culture and things, and she didn't overdo it. She was just really into getting down to the root of things and all that. She even had this little public access show in Nebraska. I think it was called The Nations, with this guy that she was in love with. And I remember on Friday nights we would watch her on her little show, and it was so cute. But she was always talking about black issues. Anyway, we get in there and she gives me night clothes to wear. Now the night clothes that she gave me, I had no idea that there was something wrong with them. The back was out. It was almost like a nursing, a scrub, whatever that thing is that you put on when you're in a hospital. It was kind of like that, but it tied in the back, and I didn't get it. So we took our showers, and it was late at night, so they put us to bed. The first few days there, at that point, we're in a foreign place. Nobody's telling us anything. Every time we ask about our mom, they're next week and this and that. Nobody's telling us shit. Just picture yourself as a kid being taken away from your parents, and you're not going to summer camp or somewhere where you're expected to do have fun and things. You're off in a place and nobody is explaining things. You're literally getting shipped off from place to place to place, right? So we are just trying to adapt. We're not in school because at that point I think my brother was 8 or 9. This was 1999, so he was 9 years old and I was 7. So we had never been in school at that point. We were only being homeschooled, and that was very minimum. I knew my letters, but I couldn't read. And my brother, he could read very minimal. We were all just trying to adapt. There were no other foster kids, but the grandmother, her teenage nephew would come over. He was 16 or 17, and they had this very weird relationship. At night they would always watch these weird sexy shows. It was sex shows kind of, I don't know, but there was this lady, she was always dancing in lingerie, and they were always watching it, and it was so strange. What kind of relationship is that? And then they had her niece, or a girl, she would be over there sometimes, and then they had this little boy, his name was Jordan, and he was in the room with my brother. So my room, it was a big room, and it had 4 beds in it, and then my brother had a room, and I think it had bunk beds or something, I don't remember. But we would go outside and we would just play all day because she didn't want us in the house. So we would just find things to do, and we tried to make friends with people in the neighborhood. The kids were not nice. Everybody knew that we were foster kids. They knew that this was the foster house where they have a bunch of kids coming in and out. So I met this girl, and her name was Robin, and I remember her so vividly. She was a teenager and she was so nice, and every day I would go and hang out with her. So that's why I'm pretty sure this was the summertime. My brother, he was having a hard time there. Number one, he was really nice, and number two, he didn't look like the other kids, and all he wanted to do was just play, but the kids were extremely mean. He told me later on in life that one time this boy had punched him in the stomach or something for nothing, and then they were trying to make him smoke weed. The kids were just so mean to him, and the kids were not nice to me either. I was getting made fun of for my clothes and just me in general, and there were a couple times I ran home crying and she didn't care because it didn't matter and stuff. And I would tell Robin they're being mean, and sometimes Robin would tell them to go away. Remember, I went over to this lady's house, and I was kind of nervous to go over there, but I still went inside. Her son was really nice. We were cool. And she had a bunch of toys that she gave me. They were boy toys and they were girl toys, just a whole bag. And she was like, yeah, this is for you and your brother. You guys go, play. I brought it back to the foster home and I was playing with it. And she was like, where did you get those? And I was just saying, the lady gave it to me. to play with. And she said, no, you will not steal in this home. And so she said, tomorrow you're gonna bring that back. And then she didn't give me, like, I got like half the amount of dinner. We ate 2 to 3 times a day, the bare minimum. Like, I was not used to this type of food. She would always make spaghetti like once a week, and she would just, you know, give it to us at night. And then we had like sandwiches. Honestly, like, this experience is almost something like out of a movie. It was so bad and so just horrific and just boring. I was just like, what? Like, now that I look back on it, I'm like, this is horrific. So that went on, and then we were there for a week at that point. My social worker did come visit us. She didn't really care, honestly. She was just like, are you guys alive? Like, at this point, and she could see that we weren't happy, and the lady would act really nice. It was always, she was just doing it for a check whenever we had our social work visits. So on one particular day, we were usually outside, but this time I was inside the house. It was during the daytime, and, you know, I'm walking, and I walk towards my room, and there's Jordan. Now, a couple of days before, he had mentioned that my dress was open in the back, my night clothes. And so I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, well, he was like, I liked it. Next time, you know, he was a pervert. This boy was a creep. I did not know that he had been like molesting the girls that were staying in the house, all the girls. And so when I turned the corner that day and I met up with him for the first time alone in the hallway, you know, he's like, where are you going? And I said, nowhere. You know, I didn't know what he had been doing, so I just was like, but I knew he was creepy and I didn't like him. So I was just like, nothing. I'm just, you know, going around the corner into my room. So he says, okay. And guys, I don't remember what exactly happened. I just remember him pushing my shoulder, and I went against the wall, and he had me like at my shoulders, and we ended up on the floor. So he's on his knees and I'm on my back, and he has like his elbow, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but picture somebody being right here, and he had his elbow like on my chest holding me, and he had one hand literally in my pants. He didn't touch me, but he had, and I was holding his hand with all my strength. So I just started screaming like bloody murder. I was like, ah, get him off me, get him off me. He's trying to touch me, he's trying to touch me. I had never experienced anything like this before. I didn't even know that what he was doing was bad, but I knew I didn't like it. He was forcing himself on me. I had never dealt with nothing like this before. And so I was just like screaming, and she was sitting right there on the couch. I was saying like, he's trying to touch me, he's, you know, I'm screaming, I'm like, please help, please help. So my brother, I guess he was in the room, and he comes out of nowhere. Then this is crazy because we were never in the same place. We were always outside playing. He would be with his people, I would be with my people. So for us to be in the house at the same time during the day, it was fate. And he comes over, he just grabs Jordan. He's like, what is wrong with you? And I don't remember what, but he was like, he put his hand in his mouth, and he's trying to get him off, and he grabs his hand. Now, I was not very strong. Jordan was older than both of us. He was like 11. My brother was like 8 or 9, like I said, and I was 7. 6 or I think I was like 6 or 7. And we're both, with all of our strength, just trying to get him all out of my hand, and he was using his might. This boy is so used to getting what he wants, touching little girls down there, fondling them, doing whatever he wants to with these kids, that it was like he was just one-track minded. Like, he literally was like, my whole thing was exposed because, you know, I had my pants thing, it was up and it was open so everybody could see it. My brother was like trying to like not look, and he was just trying to get his hand away from him, and he let go, and I just started hitting him and pinching him and screaming because I was scared that he was gonna jump right back over to me. And so after that, I was just like, I hate you, you know, what are you doing? I really didn't get it. I just didn't understand why all this stuff was happening to us. Like, we went from being at the mall to this. Like, literally, at this point, it was like survival at its fittest, like survival of the fittest. You know, and I hate this. I hate talking about it because it makes me want to cry, but like, it was honestly like survival of the fittest at this point. And like, me and my brother, we literally just had each other, and this woman didn't care about nothing but getting a paycheck. Literally, kids are getting molested in the home. She does not care. And it's like, money is not that serious. It's not, you can still get your check and still protect the children and care and give a damn about a person's life, you know? And this was the first time that I wasn't being like, I didn't matter. Like, I literally was just a number at this point. And the whole time, I'm just thinking about, like, my mom, like, where is she? You know, do they still have a hold of her? Nobody's updating us, like I said. So we're into the second week, and finally, the lady comes into our room, and she's like, it's time for you to go. You know, get your shit. And so we didn't have much of anything. We didn't come there with much. I did not want the clothes that she had gave us, so I took, like, a shirt maybe. And I still had the pants that my mom had made me. I still have them, actually, the pants that I was in foster care with. And it was just like, yes. And Jordan tried it. He tried it when I was leaving the house. This little scrawny, skinny, he was like so pale. He was white and he had like this blonde hair and he was so pale. Like, he looked like a ghost. Like, the life had been drained out of him. But his parents were actually on drugs, he told me, and that's why he was in there. And he had been there. He had been there the longest. So you guys can just imagine how many kids have come in there and through in there and what he's been doing to them. He's probably like some child molester now, honestly. So we got the call and he tried it with me while I was leaving the door. He was like, you know, I'll see you again. And I was like, no, you will not, okay? The lady comes and gets us and she takes us back to the station. So at that point, my sister had gotten the call already that they had taken us away, and she had just gotten married in like 1996 or so, or 97 or something. I don't really remember, but I think either this year or next year it'll make it 20 years. So she's been married like a really, really long time. So they had just gotten married not too long ago. They had gone on their honeymoon. They had just bought this brand new, big, beautiful home, like new build. And, you know, they were just more about each other. And they didn't want the first kids living with them to be her little brother and sister. But that's just what happened. So, you know. So she picks us up. And I remember it was in the evening time. And I didn't really know my sister that well. I barely even remembered her. Because when I was born, she was in college. I was born when she was 20. Like, she's old enough to be my mom. My mom is old enough to be my grandma, you know? And she didn't really talk much. It was just like, she just picked us up. And she's not, like, my sister's not a very, like, nice person. Well, mainly to, like, maybe it's just me and my brother. I don't know if she ever really, like, liked us that much. I don't think we were that cute to her. Because, like, I would see, like, when we would be in daycare, like, she would pick up the other kids. But she never, like, picked me up or anything. So I don't think that she really thought we were all that cute. Because I know me. With my nieces and nephews, I am so affectionate. I'm always kissing on them, hugging on them, talking about how cute they are. And they're just like, stop doing that, you know. So it could either be, you know, she's not, like, a very affectionate person. Or she just, you know, we were obviously like a burden on her, but yeah, she just, you know. So we get to her house, and even like as for today's standards, like, it was just a really, really nice place. It was big, and me and my brother, we shared a room. It was a pretty large room. We shared a bed, and yeah, I was pretty mischievous at her house too. I was very, like, I remember like just doing all kinds of stuff. I clogged the toilet on accident. I was just acting out. Anyway, so school came around. It was our first time ever going to school. I had never interacted with a bunch of kids in a classroom. My sister, I forgot to mention this, but right before we went in there, my sister had sat us down, because she used to be a teacher and then she started consulting. She sat us down and she taught me how to read, and it took like 2 hours. That's how good she is. At least I knew like my letters. She taught me how to put things together, and I picked it up like that. And that's how I knew, like, I really did like school. It was just the people that made it horrible, which is pretty typical. And one thing I specifically remember, and I'll never forget this, is what she did. You know, like I said, guys, I had natural hair. My mom had always taken care of it. It was always combed, and, you know. And my sister permed it, because my natural hair just, it was too hard for her to deal with. It wasn't good enough. I remember that specifically, like, she immediately did it. That was like one of the first things they did. And I was just like, how can you do that to somebody? Like, because my sister now, she has locks. Her daughter's hair is natural. She's very like, into being like, you know, Afrocentric now. Like she's done a whole 360. But back then my sister was getting perms and she didn't know any better. But it was like, if somebody took my sister's kids away right now and she permed her daughter's hair, my sister would have a fit. So the simple fact that she did it to my mom, I just didn't really get, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like she has this disconnect. Like she doesn't care about really anybody. But and then after I was permed, they went and they cut off my brother's locks because she was like, you know, it doesn't fit in with us. And it's just crazy now. My brother's locks, guys, like you could sell them. They were so thick and nourished, and they just stretched so long, and everybody would always talk about how bouncy they were. Like even to this day, I watch people on YouTube and I have never seen locks like my brother's locks. Like they were really great. My mom really did a good job with them, and they were just these big chunky like locks. They were so nice and stuff. And even the locks were holding up. Even though we were in foster care, nobody was doing our hair, nobody was taking care of us, nothing. Like they were still holding up. So yeah, my sister did the best that she could. Honestly, I have to give her that. Like she really did. She would take us out sometimes. Now I forgot to mention to you guys, we were going back and forth to my older brother's house on the weekend so my sister could get a break. And we also had, my sister was paying this lady to watch us after school. So on the weekends, I remember we finally got a call from my mom. She was, you know, out of holding or gel or whatever, and you know, I talked to her, and the first thing I did was I apologized like 1,000 times. I was like, I'm sorry, Mom. And my mom was the only person who ever told me that it wasn't my fault. The entire time, you know, everybody was saying, every time somebody would ask, everybody would be like, oh, it's her fault, you know, that they're in foster care or whatever. She was like, no, baby, you know, this is not your fault. And I remember just hearing my mom, and I just felt so good, because I kept thinking, you know, I'll see you next week, you know, but it had already been a year, and I hadn't seen my mom at all. And I felt like I could have seen her. I really didn't understand why my mom couldn't come over. We used to ask, like, we were all in Houston. My mom was living in Houston. I wouldn't give a fuck about the courts and all that stuff. I would have tried harder. I don't even understand that. I don't know why we couldn't see my mom. My mom didn't have a car. My sisters and my brother did, but I didn't get that. I would have snuck her. I wouldn't have told the courts. You know what I mean? Whatever. So I was telling my mom that I had been working on my arm, and I had asked her if she could please just buy me some Capri Suns and Tic Tacs. She was like, yeah, I'll get them for you. Then the next time I talked to her, I was like, hey, do you have the Capri Suns? And she said, no, they were too heavy, but I'll get them for you next time. And we couldn't talk to her very long because I think my mom was using phone cards. We didn't have a phone and stuff, and I don't know if we had a house phone or not, but yeah, it's just really sad. Like even just thinking about it. And then we started school, and I feel like you should give people like kind of like let them know what they're about to get into. When I was in school, the kids were not nice, and so I started acting out again. So I won't get too much into this, but I remember like specifically, I didn't know that me having like my arm injury was something that people didn't like. So the kids would make fun of me about it, and I didn't get it because, you know, the whole time my arm is something that just wasn't really talked about in the house. It was just there. Like there was nothing I could do about it. So but it was just whatever. And it was crazy because like my mom at the time, you know, I would go to the doctor, I would do my arm exercises. So my mom was doing it every night, and nobody cared enough. So nobody was doing anything with my arm. So, you know, my elbow stuck out like that when I would walk. And one day we were sitting down, they had put the whole like second grade in the hallway to watch a movie together. They rolled in that TV on the thing, and I remember they had started the movie, and this boy named Max and this girl named Amber sat, you know, on the sides of me. And I had never met this girl in my life. I had seen her, but I never met her. So she's like, hey Max, you know, I'm in the middle. He's like, what's up? And then she says, do you like her? Never met me, just being a messy ass ugly bitch. And so he's like, no. And she's like, why not? She's laughing. He's like, ew, because of her arm. And guys, my heart sank. Kids are cool. Like the movie had just started. Couldn't they have done this halfway through? Guys, I was like, I said, I'm not you know, I was like, I can't help it. You know, I can't help that my arm is like this. And then I told her, I said, shut up. And then they both started laughing at me, and I just started crying, like crying. My jeans were soaked. I had my head down like the entire time because I was just so mad, and I was like ashamed and stuff. And I never forgot that. I was just like, you know, people are fucking evil. And I wish I could have like beat her up. She had like natural blonde hair. She had these big ass glasses, and she was super skinny. She was really light skinned. Like she had her hair was literally gold. She had no room to talk about nobody. She looked weird. So it's like, why are you talking about me? Anyway, guys, so that was one of the instances. So after being in school and stuff and learning how to read, my sister held my brother back, and she shouldn't have done it. That was a big mistake. And he was in the 3rd grade, I was in the 2nd. And I mean, I didn't like it. I didn't like school at all. I hated the people. I hated the way that we were learning. I did make friends because I was just one of those people, like, I'm like, you're gonna be my friend, and that was it. But I was pretty mischievous. Anyway, after my brother's, I think it was my brother's 10th birthday, I think this was like in 2000, they sent us to go live with my dad. So yeah, because I remember having like Halloween at my sister's house. So yeah, this was 1999, and then it was into 2000. So yeah, we were probably there for like a year at my sister's house. It really went by fast. That summer, she told us, well, you're gonna go live with your dad now. You guys, you know, we couldn't live there anymore. And I think it was putting like a huge strain on her marriage and stuff, and that always came first to my sister. So she sent us to go live with my dad. They put us on a plane. I had never been on a plane before with my social worker, and they, you know, I had my backpack. My sister put her number in my backpack and sent us off. I remember going to the airport. This social worker just introduced us to my dad. I had already knew my dad before, but I had never lived with him. I didn't know him as an actual kid. I just knew him as a baby. So, and my mom had honestly told us so many scary stories about him that I was scared. When we got there, my dad, he was really, really nice. I mean, this was honestly like the best summer of my life, and I hate to even admit that because it was, you know, it was like unknowingly the best summer of my life. My dad took us out to Kansas City. He took us shopping, all the stuff that I told you guys in the last story. It was really cool. But my dad ended up bringing this woman into the story, and this woman was viciously abusive. She was horrible. And my dad was really neglectful. He would honestly look over it because he was getting free. She was pretty much watching us for free, and my dad would just pay for like food and obviously a place to live. And she worked as a security guard at night, and that was the only time that we were like free, honestly. And so after being at my dad's house for 2 years, him and the lady, they would fight, and then sometimes she would go off to New York to go see her daughter. This is the lady I'm talking about is Ovita Bell. This is the, like, she was the side chick. Like, my dad had multiple girlfriends. He would be dating women simultaneously. I thought this was normal. And then he had this woman living at home, who he was dating, and she was crazy. She would make us sit outside and wait for my dad to come out while he was cheating, but he would be there all night, and this would be on school nights. She would make us wait outside for him. And then she was like beating on us, and she would lie, and she was crazy. And I'm gonna do an entire story time on her because this one would be way too long. So after a year, I was looking at my diary pages from like 2002, and I noticed that we were visiting my mom. So I'm gonna have to say that after 2000, that was when a lady started off being nice in the summertime, and then by the fall she was horrible, horrific. And then 2001, we were all with my dad. They were breaking up, getting back together. All the terrible things were happening, and my brother had it the worst. And then by 2002, my mom started getting these visits, but like they were supervised visits. So she was asking anybody and everybody, could you please supervise my visits for my kids? And it was like, I was the type of kid, like I wouldn't have told. And I just didn't get why my mom couldn't just tell them, hey, just tell them I was there, you know, but they had to sign off on it. And I remember there was this lady, this fake lady who was like, she didn't give my mom a good report, but my mom needed people to, and it was like, this was just so dramatic and difficult. My mom had to take anger management classes. She had to take parenting lessons. She had to take a driver's course. It was all kinds of stupid things. They were trying to see the way we were living. They didn't really understand why we were being homeschooled. But it's like nowadays, a lot of people are homeschooling their children. A lot of people don't like the way that the actual school system is. Like, kids are killing themselves because of bullying and stuff. So a lot of parents are turning to homeschooling. So it was just like, and I guess it wasn't that common back then, but I liked it. And so after a while, we started going to court. Now, the thing is that my parents had never gotten divorced. They were still legally married. The thing was that my dad, he came in from a different country, so he needed his green card. And you had to be married, I think, like 10 years at that, like back in the 80s and 90s, because they got married in the 80s. So, oh my gosh, they did. They were married for like a really, really long time, but they were not together. So they had to get divorced, first of all. And then my mom, we didn't have a lot of money, so she didn't really have money for court cases and all that, and things were getting delayed, and sometimes, so that's why my mom didn't really, and she had friends helping her because, she was explaining the situation. So finally, my dad saw that we just did not want to be with him, but he did not care. He was making my mom pay $25 a month in child support, which I ended up having to pay off later on because, it had accumulated over years and years and years. And he was just a really selfish man. So when the court cases started happening, that's when my dad started stepping it up. Me and my brother, we went to the school and we told them that we were being abused and neglected, and my dad was trying to step it up. I remember one time we visited and he was being really nice and he slipped us like $50 in a card. He had forgot our birthdays. He would always forget them, but he would try to remember them, and he gave us like $50. And another time he gave us like $70 for school supplies. But at that point we had already talked to the court. It was too little too late, and that was it. I was done with him. And so by 2002, I think I was in like 5th grade. We were pretty much staying with my mom unsupervised at that point. And my dad could go and be with his women and his girlfriends. And I think he was happy about that because he wasn't doing his part anyway. And the other woman, the mistress, like, she was giving him such hell that like he was going to have to be in our lives at that point. And he didn't want to be. So it was better for him to just give us to our mom so he could go off and live his life. So my mom ended up getting custody, and after a year or two, me and my brother forced my mom to put him on child support. So my dad ended up having to pay like $500 for child support. So it was literally cheaper just to keep us. If he would have just done his part and been a decent human being, like, he could have been saving the money. So my dad literally ended up paying for it in the end. My dad, I think, was the only dad that paid child support. And we had to find him because he went off. He had went under a different name, new persona, different job. He had quit his job, got a new job, and all kinds of stuff. So, and then he had back pay child support that he wasn't paying, and just all kinds of stuff. So yeah, guys, that was the story of me being in foster care. I want to make sure that I get pretty much everything in there. I want to go more into detail, but I just don't want the video to be too long. We went into foster care in 1999, had to live with my sister, then we lived with my dad, then we started getting supervised visitation with my mom, and her boyfriend really helped her to get us back. My mom always credits him in this, and he was great too. Everything was just different. My mom, and it was really great having her back in our lives. But honestly, my mom's illnesses, like, it really started to kick in. So it kind of like brought me back to earth, like, oh, she's like, some things just aren't right. But nonetheless, I was really appreciative, and I was just happy to have my mom back in our lives. Like, we were living in a new apartment. Me and my brother, we had our own rooms. My mom would literally make like something out of nothing. And even though, now let me tell you guys something. It was so bad at my dad's house. First of all, we had a 2-bedroom. We were eating. We had lots of friends at our school that we were going to. I went to Masters Elementary in Omaha, Nebraska. And, we had heat. We had hot water. But we couldn't really watch TV. And we had a crazy woman living with us. And we could only have peace at night, on the nights that she worked. Other than that, we were literally walking on eggshells. We got to my mom's house. We were living all in a 1-bedroom once again. We didn't even have hot water, and we barely had any food, okay? And I was happy. Like, I was just like, okay, that's fine. We are kind of like back to square one to when I was a kid, but I really don't care. I just want my mom in my life. I don't even care, you know? So yeah, guys, that is my foster care story. Hopefully this can help other people. If you guys are in foster care and you're watching this and you're wondering, like, when is it going to end? It is going to end at some point. I hope that you don't have to be in there for long. I wasn't even in there for very long, and it was horrific. And a lot of people leave foster care wanting, like, just hating it, and you have to try to find, like, the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's gonna happen. I didn't have YouTube when I was younger, but I do get comments from people saying that, you know, they were in foster care, they currently are in there, and just other things, even similarities with the way that we all grew up. You guys never know who the hell you're talking to. The person that you could hate on YouTube or that you would think is perfect, you guys could probably have a very similar upbringing and you wouldn't even know it. So that's the point of just opening your minds. I know it sounds cheesy, but, you know, opening your hearts and just opening yourselves and just knowing that you're never alone. So anyway, I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching this video. I'm so glad I didn't get super emotional, thank God. I'm glad I recorded it like earlier and had to redo it. But yeah, I love y'all so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.